One last matchup we want to look at in depth. That would be Rams at Seahawks right here on Fox in the late window on Sunday. LA Rams have won 2 in a row to salvage their season, but to get to 500, they would have to win their first road game of the year. They are 0-3 on the road, all of their wins coming here in LA. So they feel like a perfect candidate for on the roads presented by Honda. Dreams are unstoppable. My guy Eric Williams is unstoppable. Every time we ask him to come on, he is here, and he joins me now to preview this divisional matchup. Eric, how we doing, man?
Doing great. As always, appreciate you having me.
I think the last time you and I talked about the LA Rams, we were talking about how these rookie pass rushers are getting pressure, but it's not translating to big plays. Well, Jared Verse had that breakout game we were waiting for, suffice to say. Huge night on Thursday Night Football against the Vikings last week. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say he's a defensive rookie of the year frontrunner, but how much does it mean to the Rams to, like we talked about, they were getting pressure, but now having difference makers in the front seven of that defense?
It's a big deal, obviously. I mean, as you mentioned, he had a sack and a half in that game against the Vikings and a handful of pressures. As we've talked about earlier, they're one of the top teams in terms of pressure rate, but they haven't been able to get home. And when you get home, there's just more things that can happen. You get a tackle for loss, you can get a strip sack. There's more game-changing plays that can happen when you're able to get those sacks. So it was great to see him get that. I think that's going to continue to build his confidence. And then I think it helps the back end too. You know, they're starting to play a little bit better in the back end. They got Darius Williams back from injury, and I think that kind of solidified things at corner. Over the last 4 games, defensively, they're holding teams to 15 points a game, and that's amongst the top 10 in the league. So they're starting to play better sound defense and getting people off the field. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're playing better overall as a team.
I'm sure Vikings fans would love for me to point out that a lot of that success came after Christian Darrisaw exited on Thursday Night Football. But Eric, this is a great week for the Rams to continue that momentum because, as any Seahawks fan will tell you, this is a team that struggled to put it together on the offensive line all season long. Second highest number of pressures allowed in the NFL. I think it's only Geno Smith's ability in the pocket that only has them as the sixth highest team in terms of sacks allowed. You would think it would be a lot more than 21. So I mean, this feels like another advantageous matchup for the Rams while the Seahawks wait to get a little bit healthier on that offensive line.
And they're certainly going to get their opportunities because Geno has the most attempts in the league. I mean, these guys throw it all over the yard. He has the most passing yards in the league as well. The issue right now for the Seahawks is the line of scrimmage. You know, they're 29th in the league in run offense and they're 29th in the league in run defense. And so their inability to control things up front is why they're sitting where they're at right now, 4-4, having lost 4 of their last 5 games. And oh, by the way, this is the team that's struggling to win at home. They've lost 3 straight games at home. They're 2-3 now on the year. Since 2021, they're 15-15 at home. So this is a team that traditionally has, had the home field advantage, the 12s and all of that. But right now, they've failed to kind of take advantage of that home field advantage. And, you wonder what's going to happen when the Rams come to town. Last time the Rams were there, that was season opening win last year in Seattle, and that's when Puka Nacua went off.
I am curious. This Seahawks defense, it's been mixed results. They've had some nice games. They looked fantastic against Atlanta, and then they can't. It seems like they can't ever follow up a good result. Obviously, Buffalo dominated them at the line of scrimmage last week. I am curious though. This combination of Derek Hall and Boye Mafe. I mean, 9 sacks between the two of them through the first half of the season. Clearly, it's not all good, but I'm intrigued by some of the pieces here. What have you seen from these guys?
you're right. Those guys have gotten an opportunity to go out there and kind of earn snaps and earn recognition. But Geno, who's one of their best players, has been unable to get on the field due to injury, and it's kind of opened it up for players like Boye Mafe and Derek Hall. And you can see that the talent is there, the individual talent. I just think collectively the scheme hasn't come together for a lot of those players so they can play consistently, snap in and snap out. We haven't seen those splash plays from guys like Devin Witherspoon, who had an amazing rookie season for Seattle last year, and is probably their best player defensively. They went out and got Ernest Jones via trade. He was now going to be playing against his former team, the Rams, for the first time. He had 15 tackles in his first action for the Seahawks. They brought him in to help, with that run defense. And so we'll see how he continues to evolve in that scheme. But for me, when I watch them, there's just too many individual breakdowns, and they never really get to the good stuff that I think that Mike Macdonald can bring to that scheme, which is really third down, and you can get after the passer. They're unable to get to those third and long situations because they're giving up so many yards on first and second down.
You think it's too simplistic to say it seems like the good Seahawks games follow a very similar pattern? This just doesn't feel like right now a team that can play from behind or even play in a shootout type of game like we saw against the Detroit Lions. It looks pretty good when you can build a lead and go from there, but it feels like a pretty one-dimensional team, and if they can't win that way, it seems like they struggle to adapt. Is that too simplistic to say?
No, I think that's fair. When you look at their wins this season, I mean, they beat the Patriots on a last second field goal that the Patriots weren't able to make. They beat the Miami Dolphins without Tua. When you look at some of their other wins, they haven't been able to really knock out the top teams in the league. Beat the Falcons on the road, as you mentioned. But when they faced the Lions, when they faced the Niners, and just this past week when they faced the Bills, teams that you're going to see in the postseason, they've really struggled because, like you mentioned, there's one path to victory for them, and that's basically Geno throwing for 400 yards and kind of getting into a shootout with these other teams. And oh, by the way, they might not have their best receiver in DK Metcalf this week. He didn't play this past week because of a knee sprain, and we'll see if he's able to get onto the practice field this week. McDonald said he's optimistic for that to happen, but if they don't have DK, who's played pretty well in matchups against the Rams, then again, you wonder how they're going to be able to create explosive plays. Are they going to be able to get Kenneth Walker going? Is offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb going to commit to running the football and getting Kenneth Walker going in terms of the run game to create some balance and take some pressure off of Geno? I just don't feel like they're committed to run the football collectively as a team with all 11 guys. I haven't seen that yet this season.
I think it's just a case of, and I mean, I guess this is a hope. You hope the Seahawks can get a little bit healthier on the offensive line. Abraham Lucas sounds like he'll be back soon. I don't know if it happens for this game against the Rams. It's a little early in the week for that, but it just kind of feels like the Seahawks are hanging on playing this way, and maybe they can get into more of that, mode that we would prefer to see, that I'm sure they would prefer to see when they get a little bit healthier. But until then, yeah, it's tough to expect consistent results when you're throwing the ball 40 plus times a game.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Dave. But then I also think it's an excuse. When you look at the Rams, they're starting two rookies up front offensively, and they only gave up one sack over the last two games. And they're playing without Steven Avila and Jonah Jackson, two guys that they expected a lot of. And so, it's the NFL. You're going to have guys that are injured, and you just kind of have to figure things out. And as you said, they haven't been able to figure it out offensively up front in Seattle. And then again, that goes back to the coaching staff being able to put the pieces together, understand who you have personnel wise, and put them in their best positions to succeed. You're seeing that with Sean McVay and the Rams. You're not seeing that with the Seahawks. You're seeing kind of an inexperienced staff that's taken over a team and is still trying to figure it out on the run.
I'm glad you mentioned that because and the Rams have been banged up front as well, and their run game has not been as fun as what we saw last year, but a very workmanlike performance against Minnesota last week. We mentioned the Seahawks struggles. Do you see them continuing that and putting that together? Because it would be nice to see Kyron Williams get going the way that he was last year.
I think we're going to continue to see Sean McVay leaning on the quick game, whether it's getting the ball out of Stafford's hands quickly on slants, out routes, screens. You saw what the offense looked like with Puka Nacua back. He had 56 yards after the catch, over 100 yards receiving. He continues to be the fastest slow guy in the league. For a guy that's 4'6", he certainly runs by a lot of other fast football players, which is always fun and interesting to see. And so I think you're going to continue to see McVay kind of leaning on getting the ball out of Stafford's hands quickly. And then with different personnel in there, smaller personnel up front, you can see him using those rookies and kind of getting them out in space and letting them, kick guys out in the screen game as opposed to just being brute guys up the middle and running power.
My hope for this game is that the good versions of both teams show up, because there's big time shootout potential here if we get the good version of the Seahawks and the good version of the Rams. It hasn't been consistent for either team, but it's a division game. Crazier things have happened. Looking forward, hoping for a lot of points. Eric, I appreciate it, man. We'll see how it goes. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me as always, Dave.